Hello and welcome to another video. My name is Boxiest, and today we are going to continue the What If series. What if events had gone differently? And in this What If, we're going to change the history of Cobra Kai. What if the villains of the Karate Kid trilogy teamed up against Mr. Miyagi and Daniel during the events of the Karate Kid Part 3? So in this timeline, the events of the Karate Kid Part 1 and Part 2 would still happen. Only in this timeline, Sato wouldn't be redeemed, so Sato and Chozen would still be on the same side. Mr. Miyagi and Daniel would leave Okinawa without fighting Sato or Chozen, and Sato wouldn't want to wait around for Mr. Miyagi to come back, so he would get the idea to go to the US to confront them. They would want to get revenge on Mr. Miyagi and Daniel for disgracing their honor, and in the US, Kreese would still go to Terry Silver, and Terry Silver would want to get revenge on Mr. Miyagi and Daniel. So Terry would still come up with his plan and hire Mike Barnes. So Mike would still be hired to intimidate Daniel. Sato and Chozen would find Mr. Miyagi's house, and Sato would be yelling at Mr. Miyagi to come out and fight him. But Mr. Miyagi and Daniel wouldn't be home. Terry would see this while he was hiding at Mr. Miyagi's house. He would see that they also wanted revenge. And after Sato and Chozen leave, Terry would approach them, and Terry would make them an offer to join him in his plan. He would say that he was going to make Daniel and Mr. Miyagi forced to fight them. Sato and Chozen would agree, so the events of Karate Kid 3 would continue. Terry would still offer to train Daniel for the L Valley, and he would train him using the Quicksilver method. Those events would stay the same. Sato and Chozen would train Terry, Mike Barnes, and Kreese in the ways of Miyagi-Do, so they would know both Cobra Kai and Miyagi-Do. Terry Silver would also track down Johnny, and he would tell him his plan. He would offer Johnny a chance at revenge, so Johnny would join Terry Silver's plan, and the events of Karate Kid 3 would continue. Terry Silver would still hire someone to provoke Daniel at the nightclub, so Daniel would no longer want to train in Cobra Kai. Daniel would go to the Cobra Kai dojo to thank Terry for everything. This is when Terry would reveal his master plan, and he would call out Mike Barnes and Johnny to join him. Daniel would be surprised to see Johnny back in Cobra Kai. Daniel would turn to leave, but he would be roundhouse kicked by Chozen. Daniel would fall on the floor, and Chozen would pick him up and hold him in an armbar, while Mike Barnes would punch him. Kreese and Sato would come out of their hiding spots. Kreese and Terry would be laughing at Daniel. This is when Mr. Miyagi would come into the Cobra Kai dojo, and Mr. Miyagi would be surprised to see Sato and Chozen there. Sato would be happy to see Mr. Miyagi, and he would say that he's waited a long time for this. Sato, Terry, and Kreese would line up to face Mr. Miyagi. Chozen, Mike, and Johnny would continue beating up Daniel. Mr. Miyagi would see this, and he would get angry, so Mr. Miyagi would get into a ready stance to prepare to fight. Terry Silver would strike first with a flying sidekick, but Mr. Miyagi would dodge it. Kreese would come in from behind, and he would want to punch Mr. Miyagi, but Mr. Miyagi would also dodge it. And while Mr. Miyagi was distracted, Sato would sweep his leg and knock Mr. Miyagi to the ground. Mr. Miyagi would quickly get up and continue fighting. Sato would attack using Miyagi-Do, and Mr. Miyagi would fight defensively. Terry and Kreese would come in from the sides, and they would start attacking Mr. Miyagi. Mr. Miyagi would use her moves against them, but Sato would manage to land a hit, and the three of them would gang up on Mr. Miyagi. Sato would use the pressure point technique on Mr. Miyagi, and much like Johnny countered the pressure point technique in Cobra Kai Season 4, Mr. Miyagi would do the same thing. Mr. Miyagi would continue fighting. Terry would want to use the Quicksilver method against Mr. Miyagi, but Mr. Miyagi would defend himself, and eventually he would be able to finish the pressure point technique, so Mr. Miyagi would be defenseless. Sato would want to finish Mr. Miyagi off, and Chozen would make Daniel watch as Sato was getting ready to kill Mr. Miyagi. This is when Johnny would speak up, and he would say that he didn't sign up for this. All he wanted was to get revenge on Daniel, and that this has gone too far. Johnny wouldn't want any part of this, so he would want to stop Sato from killing Mr. Miyagi. Terry would see this, and he would order Mike to stop Johnny. So Mike and Johnny would start fighting, but Mike would be more aggressive than Johnny, and he would start beating him. Kreese would get angry, and he would tell Terry to tell Mike to stop, but Terry would tell him that he thought that this was what he wanted. So Terry would order Mike to stop fighting Johnny, and Johnny would be on the ground bleeding. Daniel would start struggling to get free from Chozen's hold, and Sato not wanting to wait around, he would end up killing Mr. Miyagi. Daniel would scream, Johnny, Mike, and Kreese would be left in shock, and Mike Barnes would run away. Kreese would yell at Sato, yelling, "What did you do?" And Sato would say that he finally got his honor back. Johnny would stand up and he would get out of there. Sato would tell Chosen that their work was finished, so Chosen would let go of Daniel. Daniel would be enraged and he would want to fight Sato, but Sato would knock Daniel out with a roundhouse kick to his head. And Sato and Chosen would leave, and Kreese and Terry would be left at the dojo. Kreese would still be in shock of what happened. This is when the police would show up and arrest Terry and Kreese. Daniel would be taken to the hospital, and Johnny would turn himself in, and Johnny would be charged with aggravated assault. The police would still be looking for Mike Barnes, Sato, and Chosen. Overall, things would be a lot more dark in this timeline, and that is where I'm going to end this what if. Thank you guys for watching. What do you guys think would have happened if the villains of the Karate Kid trilogy teamed up against Mr. Miyagi and Daniel during the events of the Karate Kid Part 3? Let me know in the comments below. All members have access to emojis that can be used in comments and live streams. This isn't mandatory. This is only something extra if you want to support the channel even more. YouTube lets me know that the majority of you are not subscribed, so if you guys could subscribe, that would be much appreciated. Thank you guys for watching. Make sure to like this video, subscribe, and turn on post notifications. And I'll see you guys next time.